92nd Street Y online media is made possible by the generous support of listeners like you. This program, part of the Unterberg Poetry Center's 75 at 75 project, features James Schuyler reading from his work. It was recorded on November 20th, 1989, before a live audience at New York's 92nd Street Y.
Salute. Past is past, and if one remembers what one meant to do and never did, is not to have thought to do enough? Like that gathering of one of each, I planned to gather one of each kind of clover, daisy, paintbrush that grew in that field the cabin stood in, and studied them one afternoon before they wilted. Past is past. I salute that various field. A man in blue. Under the French horns of a November afternoon, a man in blue is raking leaves with a wide wooden rake, whose teeth are pegs, or rather dowels. Next door, boys play soccer. You got to start over, sort of. A round attic window in a radiant gray house waits like a kettle drum. You got to start. The Brahmsian day lapses from waltz to march. The grass, rough cut as Bruno Walter's hair, is stretched, strewn, and humped beneath a sycamore, wide and high as an idea of heaven, in which Brahms turns his face like a bearded thumb and says, "There is something I must tell you," to Bruno Walter. In the first movement of my second, think of it as a family planning where to go next summer in terms of other summers. A material ecstasy, subdued, recollective. Bruno Walter, in a funny jacket with a turned-up collar, says, "Let me sing it for you." He waves his hands, and through the vocalese-shaped spaces of naked elms he draws a copper beach, ignited with a few late leaves. He bluely glazes a rhododendron, a sea of leaves, against gold grass. There is a snapping from the bright work of parked and rolling cars. There almost has to be a heaven, so there could be a place for Bruno Walter, who never needed the cry of a baton. Immortality, in a small, dusty, rather gritty, somewhat scratchy Magnavox, from which a forte drops like a used Brillo pad, frayed. But it's hard to think of the sky as a thick glass floor with thick-soled Viennese boots tromping about on it. It's a whole lot harder thinking of Brahms in something soft, white, and flowing. Life, he cries, here in the last movement, is something more than beer and Skittles. And that something more is a whole lot better than beer and Skittles, says Bruno Walter, darkly, under the sod. I don't suppose it seems so dark to a root. Who are these men in evening coats? What are these thumps? Where is Brahms and Bruno Walter? Ensconced in resonant, plump easy chairs, covered with scuffed brown leather, in a pungent autumn that blends leaf smoke, sycamore, tobacco, other, their nobility wound in a finale, like this calico cat, asleep curled up in a breadbasket on a sideboard where the sun falls. Empathy and New Year. A notion like that of empathy inspires great distrust in us because it connotes a further dose of irrationalism and mysticism. Levi-Strauss. 1. Whitman took the cars all the way from Camden, and when he got here, or rather there, said, "Quit quoting," and took the next back through the Jersey meadows which were that then. But what if it is all Maya, illusion? I doubt it, though. Men are not so inventive, or few are. Not knowing a name for something proves nothing. Right now it isn't raining, snowing, sleeting, slushing, yet it is doing something. As a matter of fact, it is raining snow. Snow from cold clouds that melts as it strikes. To look out a window is to sense wet feet. Now to infuse the garage with a subjective state, and can't make it seem to, even if it is a little like what the dentist saw, a dark gullet with gleams and red. You come to me at midnight and say, "I can smell that after Christmas letdown coming like a hound," and clarify, "I can smell it just like a hound does." So it came. It's a shame expectations are so often to be counted on. New Year is nearly here, and who, knowing himself, would endanger his desires, resolving them in a formula? After a while, even a wish flashing by, as a thought, provokes a knock on wood so often, a little dish-like place, worn in this desk, just holds a lucky stone, inherited from an unlucky man. 1968, what a lovely name to give a year. Even better than the dogs, Wirt, bird thou never, and Woofy. Personally, I am going to call the new year Mutt. Flattering it will get you nowhere. 2. Awake at 4 and heard a snowplow, not rumble, a huge beast at its chow, and wondered, is it 1968 or 1969 for a bit. 1968 had such a familiar sound. Got coffee and started reading Darwin. So modest, so innocent, so pleased at the surprise that he should grow up to be him. How grand to begin a new year with a new writer you really love. A snow shovel scrapes. It's 12 hours later, and the sun that came so late is almost gone. A few pink minutes, and yet the days get longer. Coming from the movies last night, snow had fallen in almost still air and lay on all, so all twigs were emboldened to make big disclosures. It felt warm, that is, for cold, the way it does when snow falls without wind. A snow picture, you said, under the clung-to elms, worth painting. I said, the weather operator said, turning tomorrow to bitter cold. Then the wind will veer round to the north and blow all of it down. Maybe, I thought, it will get cold some other way. You, as usual, were right. It did and has. Night and snow and the threads of life, for once seen as they are, in ropes like roots. Fauré's second piano quartet. On a day like this, the rain comes down in fat and random drops among the ailanthus leaves, the tree of heaven, the leaves that on moonlit nights shimmer black and blade-shaped at the third-floor window. And there are bunches of small green knobs, buds, crowded together. The rapid music fills in the spaces of the leaves, and the piano comes in like an extra heartbeat, dangerous and lovely. Slower now, less like the leaves, more like the rain, which almost isn't rain, more like thawed-out hail. All this beauty in the mess of this small apartment on West 20th in Chelsea, New York. Slowly the notes pour out, slowly, more slowly still, fat rain falls. Korean mums beside me in this garden are huge and daisy-like. Why not? Are not oxeye daisies a chrysanthemum, shrubby and thick-stalked, the leaves pointing up the stems from which the flowers burst in sunbursts? I love this garden in all its moods, even under its winter coat of salt hay, or now in October, more than half gone over. Here a rose, there a clump of aconite. This morning one of the dogs killed a barn owl. Bob saw it happen, tried to intervene. The Airedale snapped its neck and left it lying. Now the bird lies buried by an apple tree. Last evening from the table we saw the owl, huge in the dusk, circling the field on owl's silent wings. The first one ever seen here. Now it's gone, a dream you just remember. The dogs are barking. In the studio, music plays, and Bob and Dara paint. I sit scribbling in a little notebook at a garden table, too hot in a heavy shirt, in the mid-October sun into which the Korean mums all face. There is a dull book with me, an apple core, cigarettes, and ashtray. Behind me, the rue I gave Bob flourishes. Light on leaves, so much to see, and all I really see is that owl, its bulk troubling the twilight. I'll soon forget it. What is there I have not forgot, or one day will forget? This garden, the breeze and stillness, even the words Korean mums. Advent. Open my eyes on the welcome rosy shock of sunshine. Open the first little door of my Advent calendar, a darling hobby horse on wheels. Open the window a crack and quickly close it against a knife-like draft. The day looks warmer than it is. Shaker. There was simply nothing to look at. A white empty room with pegs to hang chairs on. You know the kind that I mean, the kind that look like the way that Teddy Wilson plays the piano. Each note is so clear. I pointed the camera down the hall, an arrangement in white. The door of the closet ajar. The lid of one seat was up, straight lines, no curves. There was a shop, pot holders, a big bag of apples, crisp, sharp. I looked back at the girl who looked back at me, perhaps to be the last shaker at Sabbath Day Lake. Rain quilts the pond, and out from under its plumped upness, a snapping turtle pokes its head and munches a morsel of water lily leaf. The sky falls down in bits and pieces. Does the face of the pond show the level of the water table? Maybe yes, maybe no. A girl, no, an ironwood tree, stands there, so young, so sinewy and slim, as though soft water rinses were all it ever wanted. A branch heavily shifts its leaves. Something, a frog, goes plop. The rough-cut grass, stuck randomly with flowers, accepts the world's shampoo. The light within and the light without, the shade of a rainy April morning, subtle shadows cast backward by lamplight upon daylight, soft, unforceful daylight, the essence of cloud cover descending mistily into the street, and the unwhitely white surround of a curling photograph models itself as north light modeled the face in the photograph. And against a window, a tree shows each lightly tinted leaf another shadowy shade, some transparently, some not, and in the corner, the dark bisected by the light that falls from without, created by its absence, lies luminous within itself, the luminous dark within. Horse chestnut trees and roses. 20-some years ago, I read Graham Stewart Thomas's Color in the Winter Garden. I didn't plant a winter garden, but the book led on to his rose books, the old shrub roses of today, and the one about climbers and ramblers. By the corner of the arbor, I planted the splendid Nevada, a Spanish rose, Pedro Dot, and on the arbor, yellow Lawrence Johnston. I've never known anyone who made a real success of that. Then a small flowered rose, like a blackberry in flower, whose name I forget. And then, oh loveliness, oh glory, Madame Alfred Carrière, white with the faintest blush of pink, and which will bloom even on the north wall. I used to shave and look down into her morning kisses. The day Robert Kennedy died, a green and evil worm crawled out of a bud. I killed it, a gardening Shiran. At the corner of the house, Rosa mutabilis fluttered its single changeable wings, my favorite, perhaps. Then, in the border, along the south side of the White House, golden wings, a patented rose. Did you know you can patent a rose? Well, you can. Prickly purplish rose de Resht, souvenir de la Malmaison, named by a Russian Grand Duke in honor of the Empress Josephine, Empress of Rosarians. Mabel Morrison, lifting her blousy white blooms to the living room windows. Then Georg Ahrens, whose silver pink petals uniquely fold into sharp points. Or is it Georg, my favorite? And darkly brooding Prince Camille de Rohan, on which, out of a cloudless sky, a miraculous rain once fell. But I'm forgetting Gloire de Dijon, Dean Holt's favorite rose. Then the smallest, most delectable of all, Rose de Meaux. Alas, it pined away. And elsewhere more, Rosa Gallica, the striped Rosa Mundi, and the pink, the Pembertons, Persian yellow, and unforgettable cerise Zéphirine Drouin, and a gray rose, Reine des Violettes, Sweetbriar, Madame Pierre Auger, Variegata di Bologna, like raspberries and cream, and more whose names escape me. I went by there Sunday last, and they're gone, all gone, uprooted, supplanted by a hateful foundation planting of dinky conifers, some pointed, some squatty, roundish. I put a curse on it and them. On either side of the front walk there towered 2 old horse chestnut trees. I loved their sticky, unfurling leaves, and when they bore their candles, it was magic, breathtaking, eye-delighting. Cut down, cut down. What kind of man cuts down trees that took all those years to grow? I do not understand. Oh well, it's his house now, and I remove the curse, but not without a hope that Rose de Recht and the rugosas gave him a good scratching. He deserved it. But, oh dear, I forgot the 5 old China monthly roses, and I always wish I'd planted Félicité et Perpétue. It's their names I like. And Climbing Lady Hillingdon. But the garland, grown as a fountain, seemed somehow beyond me. There are roses and roses, always more roses. It's the horse chestnut trees I mind. Odious, hateful vandal. Mood Indigo for David Trinidad. And the curtain rose in that theater so long ago, and the music is playing, the first song I fell in love to today. So soon is it possible? And there, gigantic, is the face on the backdrop of the elegant Duke, the song Mood Indigo, unforgettable dragging rhythm, his smile, the tie, the stick pin. Enter the dancer in tights, darkest blue. She dances sinuously right up to him, the elegant smiling Duke, and the stick pin, 3-dimensional, she lies back upon it and revolves, sexy, I so young, and the rhythm dragged out. Enter the man in black. Is he her fate? A dangerous destiny. Oh, infamous race riots of Washington, D.C. Slowly they revolve. Is she dying? She is dying slowly, and the Duke, the audience so still, so rapt. Saturday matinees of vaudeville, my childhood, already in love today, perhaps. They have left the stage, and she returns, somehow a different dancer. And on the tie pin she lies back, as the curtain descends on a strange love affair. On the afternoon I first heard Mood Indigo. Everyone claps, the curtains close. Farewell, dancing madness. We will meet again in Harlem. Let's all hear it from Mildred Bailey. The men's can at Cafe Society Uptown was, need I say it, upstairs, and as I headed for the stairs, I stumbled slightly, not about to fall, and Mildred Bailey swept by in a nifty outfit, off brown velvet, cut in a simple suit effect, studded with brass nail heads, her hair dressed with stark simplicity. "Take it easy, Sonny," she said, and passed on to the supper club. Surely no supper was served at Cafe You-Know-Which, A star spoke to me in person, no one less than Mildred Bailey. Downstairs I nursed one drink, cheap as cheap, and Mildred Bailey got it on, and the boys all stood and shouted, "Mama, won't you scrap your fat?" A lively number during the brownout in war-haunted, death-smeared New York. Then things got better, greater. Mildred Bailey sang immortal hits, indelibly, permanently marked by that voice, with built-in laughter, perfect attack, always on the note, not behind or above it, and the extra something nice that was that voice, a quality, a sound she had on a disc, a waxing, you know it, Mildred Bailey. The night progresses, a second drunk oops drink. Over there, boys, in what seemed like silence, boxcars rolled on, loaded with Jews, gypsies, nameless forever others, the final solution. Mildred Bailey winds up the show with a bouncy number. When she gets back to Brooklyn from cheapo cruise ship visitation, Havana, Cuba, then the door stood wide to assorted thrills. The next one in her life ain't going to be no loser, a jerk, oh no. You can bet that he'll be Cuban. And Mildred Bailey, not quite alone, in her upstate farmhouse, the rain is falling. She listens to another voice. Somehow sadly it is singing a song, music in a world gone wrong. A view. How can a thickish tree cast so thin a shadow, and that signpost pipe none at all? Here comes Tom. The road drives off, lighter and lighter. There goes Tom in the red car after Flower. In the further distance, a baby blue camper after reeds and dead tree trunks, peeled and weathered, and the creosoted phone poles, closer. Closer on grass the sunlight breathes, fades and brightens and fades, sparkles yellow-green on green. Out of nowhere a breeze tosses the junk, soon to be leaves, on twig ends. Here comes Charlie, the cat. Closer, window screen, and a 6-light window sash, pushed part way up another, makes a 15-light window, framed by thick white net. Closer, a bag says, "The cellar." Closer, a pair of slippers and khaki canvas, a Maine hiking shoe, invites my foot to go out there into the view of May 10th, 1988. Here comes Tom. He got the flower. And there sits Charlie, a white cat on a green hummock. Birds start up in gray, in moist green, branches laid across, one call a ratchet, and coo, coo, a silver spike, thin as a hypodermic needle, just a little stick. A congeries of what once were muddy lanes, shooting one into another randomly, tangled as twigs. A round bed of peonies, hard in bud, dark of leaf, and wet, wet. Long Island Sound so near, not quite out of sight. The birds stop, the post road shines mutedly, an asphalt river. The busy cars begin to go about their business. Time here at Little Portion for morning prayer, Birds join in. The bell at the Poor Clare's convent clangs. A mourning dove persists. Soft morning green, the longer one lives, the more to forget. Budded shapes of branches interlaced. 3 grays, sky, road, path. Shadowy Room for Brother Thomas Carey, June 27, 1988. Tall buildings swayed in downtown San Francisco. No reports of injuries at present. Perishable perfection of Glenn Gould playing, Bach pearls on, oblivious of interruption, building course on course, harmonious in all lights, all weathers, not unlike the rotunda, and so much airier, spider webs and skeletons of leaves, the contiguity of panes of glass, no reports of injuries at present, detailed later. Mortal music leading on to San Francisco, the Golden Gate, the hands of God. Haze hangs heavy down into trees. Dawn doesn't break today. The morning seeps into being. 1 bird, maybe 2, chipping away at it. A white dahlia, big as baby Bumstead's head, leans its folded petals at a window, a lesson in origami. Frantically, God knows what machine. Oh no, just Maggio's garbage truck. Staring at all the roughage that hides an estuary, such urbanity seems inapt. The endless city builds on and on, thinning out here and there for the wet green velvet towels, slight imperfections of summer, moderately priced, and a hazy morning in August. Even that we may grow to love. Untitled. This soft October mid-morning, the light, what light there is, that is, comes from the east under the sky, not from it, more a pulsation than a glow, the glow that on Sunday, only yesterday, was it only yesterday? It was, shone from the west, from Manhattan, the train throbbed on toward. Light tasting of Shadowy, or less grand, more glorious. The fortified wine used at the sacrament in communion. This is the cup of life, the blood of salvation. Light lighting up the scrub in red and purple and gold. White boat, blue boat. 2 boats parked and posing in the sun-struck winter landscape. Rough grass bare with green washes. Against self-colored bark, lithe twigs end in red buds. You can't see it, the red, and when you do, you can't not see it. Against a scaling trunk, that higher than 3 men on each other's shoulders becomes more trunks. Beyond, marsh grass and reeds scratch swiftly in. A woman goes by, her dog too, in short lopes, a mutt. The day can't get brighter, clearer, but it brightens, so much and so much more under infinite cloudlessness and icy spaces and endless mystery. Noon office. A snowy curtain slides up the sky. Across the road, dead trees whose tops a hurricane snapped off rise straight and pallid out of green honeysuckle nests. That big tree nearest the house goes leathery, elephantine, stands on one leg. The blessing, the bliss of one afternoon, an infestation of silence. May God forgive us. To no one's memory, we erect dead trees. A chapel, small, just a room, the altar at center, one wall all glass, out at wet twilight, by a fence, a tall clump of calla lilies, Xanthodeschia ethiopica, roadside weeds of Ethiopia, a camellia 2 stories tall, in full bloom. They fall whole and lie like cow flops on the grass. Outdoor stairs, San Francisco. And to dust you shall return, he imposes the ashes. Yellow flowers, pie wedge petals, deeply pinked, and the yellow of yellow oranges, set in a single layer, ray out from a pollen-shedding tuft. See the bright dust on this filing cabinet, enamel the greeny cream of the seed-cradling inner flesh of an avocado. These yellow flowers on wiry stems, bunched in a thick gray pitcher, 2 bands of washed-out blue, 2 transfers in same. You don't want that clunky thing. And petals fall and tufts puff up, a brown fuzzball with a green friddle. The hard green balls with green friddles, of course, are buds. And you plunge your face in their massed, papery, powdery sweetness and grunt in delight at their sunset sweetness. It begins with C. Yes, Coreopsis. A cardinal in the branches of the great plane tree whistles its song, or is it that mimic Fairfield saluting the day under the branches of his great plane tree in his springtime yard? Thank you.
Thanks for listening. 92nd Street Y, Unterberg Poetry Center webcasts, and access to our archive are made possible by the generous support of listeners like you. For more information on 92nd Street Y and all our programs, please visit us on the web at 92y.org. This program is copyright 1989 by 92nd Street Y.